Great to be here. Great to be here. Thank you. So, Eric, thank you for inviting me. It's such a pleasure to be here in Seattle. I'm from sunny Florida, and I play golf in the opening of the Shark Tank show. And so Eric said, maybe bring your golf clubs. And I said, well, yesterday was my day to play. Well, I don't think it worked out, okay? It's pretty nasty here, by the way, yesterday. Windy and raining, and so I just have to wait till I get back to Florida, I guess. But thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure. And I'm really, I heard all about the power of the Rotary number 4, and this is just an honor to be here today. So I get asked 3 questions. Number 1, tell me about Mr. O'Leary. People want to know about him. Number 2, how'd you get into the as-seen on TV business? And 3rd, what did you learn from Shark Tank? So just to get him out of the way quickly, Mr. O'Leary, do you know why he calls himself Mr. Wonderful? Anybody know? Because nobody else will, okay? He can be a little bit nasty at times, right? So, actually, I joke. He's not a bad guy. Just sometimes, you know, there's a little bit of education on Shark Tank. And so, part of what I'm going to share today is the Shark Tank effect that it's had on those that have attended and been on the show. Companies that have been losers and not gotten a deal on the show even have been winners in their business. We're going to share about how universities and corporations and nonprofits are using this Shark Tank effect actually to create innovation inside their companies. So before I talk about that, though, let me just share a little bit about Eric mentioning how I got started, because I think it's kind of important. It's a little bit about innovation, too. So my father was my mentor, and these are the kind of books I got when I was a child, and this is maybe why I was so entrepreneurial, right? And the Harry Potter and the Mystery of Intellectual Property, you know, and how the Grinch stole your new product idea. So, I mean, in the 3rd grade, my dad, you know, I joke, this is what I felt like I was, you know, using this curriculum for my schooling. But actually, you know, I, at a young age, started a heating and air conditioning business, which I was 19. I was in my freshman year of college, and I had 25 employees while I was in college. And so it was interesting, because we were, you know, I had a $1 million company, 25 employees, and I was a junior in college. And finally I said, you know, I got to do one or the other. So I actually continued with the business and grew the business, and then ended up saying, I want to sell this, because the heating and air conditioning business wasn't something that I wanted to be in for my entire life. So I actually started my next business, which, when I sold my business, I saw an opportunity to help people get into business, because I was dealing with a lot of brokerage companies and franchise companies, people that were looking to get into business when I started looking into selling my company. So my company, this was 1980 when I started the Small Business Center, and it was a one-stop center. So we sold the business, then we did, and on one floor, I rented a whole floor of an office building in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I'm from, and we sold you the business, and then I had all the different service providers, an insurance agency, a lawyer, an accountant, an advertising and graphic guy, so we could actually do your advertising, your designs, your logos, your brochures, and everything under one roof. We incorporate your business, etc. And so here I was, helping small businesses get started. And this was sort of my entrepreneurial upbringing. And I found that I went to a lot of trade shows, and I'm at the Philadelphia Home Show, and I saw, this is what was on my TV. Eric mentioned what was on TV back, this is back in the mid-'80s now, actually 1984. Many of you can remember before the hundreds of channels, this was in 84 was when they went to 30, but before that, we basically had 4 or 5 channels, right? So Discovery Channel went dark at 3 o'clock in the morning, didn't come on until 9 a.m., and that's when the light bulb went off for me, because here I was at the Philadelphia Home Show, and this guy was cutting through a Coca-Cola can with a knife, and he said, let me go through a muffler and then through a pair of sneakers, and he was just doing this amazing demonstration, and his name was Arnold Morris, and that's when the light bulb went off. I said, he's selling, it was the Ginsu knife, and he was selling you know, unbelievable amounts of Ginsus right in front of my eyes. 10 people standing there, 8 of them were buying the Ginsu set, right? So I said, what if we turned the camera on, captured that, and put it right there where the bars are. And I'm going to show you the clip I did way back.
The knife alone cuts that tomato. Let me ask you something. How many knives you have at home this sharp you could drop the tomato on top? Pretty sharp, right? You know what one young lady said? Can you cut them thin? I said, thin, one tomato will last you all week long.
So that's as low budget a television as you're going to see. We shot that show for $2,000, and it was just one camera, one take. Arnold Morris delivered a very powerful sales job, right? And so Arnold ended up introducing me to Billy Mays and to Tony Little and to all these other guys that were actually in the business of selling products. And so I was the early on guy that put these people on TV back in the 80s. And then, of course, as the entrepreneur side of me said, well, if there's bars on the screen in the U.S., there's probably bars on the screen in other parts of the world, too. This went on, by the way, to do over $500 million in sales, this $2,000 production, right? So it was an amazing feeling for me to be able to spend a couple thousand filming somebody and have the sales just coming in like crazy, and then we took it around the world. So we went to England and opened an office in Saudi Arabia, Latin America, and Asia. So that's how I got the phone call and kind of what happened then. Mark Burnett called me one day, and Mark said, hey, Kevin, I'm doing this new TV show. He said, I've been following what you've been doing with these infomercials, and you've got fitness products, and you got kitchen products, and the juicers, and the grills, with George Foreman, and these kind of things that are out there. What this industry is pretty cool, but I've got this new show. Can you come out and see me? And I said, Mark, tell me about the show. He said, well, you know who I am, right, Kevin? I said, yeah, you're Mark Burnett. You do that Survivor show. And he said, correct. He said, we have a new show we're doing called Shark Tank, and can you come to LA? And at that time I lived in St. Pete, Florida, where I live now. And I said, Mark, I know what you do to those people on the island on Survivor. I'm not coming out to see you about Shark Tank, okay? I'm thinking he's going to throw me in the tank or something, right? So Mark Burnett said, no, it's a business show, Kevin. You really got to see this. There's 5 sharks, and you guys are going to be in front of a crowd and in front of a person that comes out. They get 3 minutes to pitch, and in 3 minutes you have to decide whether you're going to invest in their idea or not. And I said, wow, that sounds a little bit high pressure, but I kind of do that right now. So yeah, let's give it a shot. So that was the beginning. And when we first started taping, which was 2009, and the show now is been seven going on 8 years now almost that it's been on the air. It's really built an amazing brand. So I'm very proud to be associated with Shark Tank as one of the original sharks. And so now I want to share with you some of the things I learned from being on Shark Tank, from some of the sharks, but also I call it the Shark Tank effect. And I think, before I get into all the details of this effect and how we used innovation on Shark Tank, one thing I like to just spend a minute on is telling you about your customers that are coming ahead right now, because the future is ahead. The future customer is a little bit different. And I say right here that the best way to stay ahead is coming up with ideas that your competitors haven't thought of, right? So this is innovation. And so when we talk about future customers, Shark Tank culture, these are the 3 areas I'm going to focus on in the next few minutes. And I just want to, it's very important for me to understand when I'm dealing with my customers. I have a mass market customer, and the customer base has changed in the last, say, 5 years, certainly in the last 10 years, fairly dramatically. And let me just give you an example of what's happening out in the world, and many of you can understand this. Pretty amazing, the change that's happened in the world of television and media. Radio took 38 years to get to 50 million people. TV, 13 years. The internet, only 4 years. The iPod, 3. Facebook, 2. The Draw Something app got to 50 million people in 50 days. And so things are happening at a much faster pace. And so this guy got to 1 billion people in 6 months, okay? How many know the Gangnam Style guy from Korea, right? So, this is, in fact, when YouTube first started, they only put the counter are at 1 billion. When he hit 2 billion, he cracked YouTube because it didn't go above 2 billion. So now they've had to reset YouTube. So it's amazing what's happening out in the marketplace. Here's a girl. Has anyone ever heard of a girl named Michelle Phan? She's a couple of the women here, okay? She does makeup tutorials, right? And so she started in her kitchen with her iPhone doing little tutorials on how to apply makeup. And she's built an $84 million entrepreneurial startup. How about the next one, the Dollar Shave Club? The guys have probably seen that one, right? This is valued now at over $600 million. It all started with a $4,500 video right here. So, you know, I've been shooting videos for years, and all of a sudden, these kids, these are, you know, Michelle Phan was 18 years old and worth tens of millions of dollars. And here is a gentleman also in his 20s that's built a $600 million enterprise. So, you know, I think what I'm saying is this kind of Shark Tank effect. Shark Tank is out there. It's teaching people how to do things faster. And, you know, I say it's new media. It's millions of channels now. The old days was a few channels broadcasting to millions. Today, it's millions of channels broadcasting to a few. And so, think about this. Millennials are ditching their TV sets at a record rate. And I'm in the business of as seen on TV, but people aren't watching as much TV. It's actually dropped 50% in the last 10 years. And in fact, U.S. consumers now spend more time watching their iPhone and their apps and their Androids than they are watching television. So this is changing the way that the customers are looking for products, and this is what I say is happening. There's really, I got two kids, one's 27 and one's 18, and they're hardly watching television. They're on the phone, they're on the iPad, they're on Instagram, they're on, you know, so the attention span is very difficult to get. In fact, in the last 5 years, the average attention span has declined by a third, and Microsoft said that you now have a shorter attention span than a goldfish, okay? So how about that? And so now how do you market? How do you connect with customers in a world like this? Google Fiber is going to be 10 times faster. You know, it's just, you know, TV viewership is dropping. Mobile phones are going through the roof in terms of penetration, and mobile video viewership is hitting record rates. In fact, many of you have heard of Snapchat now. I mean, Snapchat, it's 10-second videos that disappear, and there's 8 billion of these, just shy of 8 billion on a daily basis, 8 billion videos. And this is a company that just started a couple of years ago. So, you know, what's funny is that someone said, well, why did these videos disappear? What's that all about? Well, think about this. When you communicate, when you talk to anybody, that it's gone, it disappears, right? The words are there and then they're gone. This is how kids and millennials are now communicating. So as marketers and as business people and as entrepreneurs, we need to tune in to this shifting marketplace and make sure that we're paying attention, because these trends are so fast and furious that they're very visual. Run of the mill, old school advertising really doesn't work, and millennials and people are looking for things that are very authentic. They're looking for peer-to-peer kind of communication. You know, this is why, I mean, just to give you an example, the word authentic is so powerful in my world. 5 years ago, if I sell a lot of products to HSN and QVC, for example. 5 years ago, I could put a product on that I didn't even know necessarily until we put it up, but we'd get a lot of returns, and eventually, you know, the feedback wasn't great on it, but that could go on the air for years and stay on the air. Today, you put a product on a shopping channel that isn't getting 4 and 5 stars, they yank you off in 30 days. You're done. This is the authenticity that's required in today's marketplace. And so understanding that and connecting and communicating with the marketplace is very, very important. So, this is the message. on the customer base that I want to share with you. And lastly, I have to share a couple Shark Tank stories, because this Shark Tank effect has really changed a lot of the way I think about my life, and also the way that I communicate with many of the companies that I interact with now. Because, so, you know, think about this. How many of you watched segments of Shark Tank before? Okay, just about everybody, great. So even the losers that go on Shark Tank become winners, right? Well, first of all, they're on 5 minutes on national ABC network television. And every segment that I did, it is rerunning on CNBC. All the segments I did have run a minimum of 10 times between, and then there's updates and all of this. So I'll give you an example. There was a company that had a sausage they made sausage for Hickory Farms, and they were a manufacturer. They did $1 million, they didn't get a deal, and they got $1 million in sales within 7 days of being on Shark Tank. So this is a pretty powerful effect for being on the show. Here's a story of a company that had 8 to 10 million people that, you know, all of a sudden know who you are, right? And their app sales grew by 7 times. So one of the deals, Shark Tank backed Groovebook, which was Mark Cuban's deal, sold to Shutterfly for $14.5 million. There's another one called Scrub Daddy that's doing about from 0 to about $30 million in sales. So the first Shark Tank effect is for companies that have been on the show, and that's a natural thing to be thinking about. But when you start thinking, oh, let me just rewind for just 1 second here. So I want to show you, because I can't come here without showing you a clip or two of Shark Tank. So watch this, because I want to talk about the Shark Tank effect of this crazy product.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Riscotti, founder of CityKitty. CityKitty is seeking $100,000 for 15% equity in our company. For the 200 million cat owners around the world, cleaning a litter box is a chore that we all dread. Litter boxes are germ breeding grounds. Kitty litter gets tracked everywhere, they stink up our homes, they cost lots of money to continually fill, and they cause fights in otherwise peaceful households because nobody wants to clean this thing. It's disgusting. And cat owners don't know there's any option. But there is. You can toilet train your cat with CityKitty. Take a look here. With CityKitty, the dirty litter box is gone. Your home is cleaner. You're saving money. You're doing good for the environment. And life at home is better for you and your cat.
We waited till after lunch to talk about cat toilet training, okay? So the effect of this, we took Rebecca Riscotti and put her into a kind of a ninja mode of going out. We got her on the Today Show, Good Morning America, the Wall Street Journal. We got her into end caps at Walgreens. Here's a cat toilet training product that was doing tens of millions of dollars, right? So it's just an amazing kind of story. And so, you know, again, the Shark Tank effect on the companies that came on the show, but also reality TV started booming. In fact, CNBC, who picked up the rerun, so now here's the second effect Shark Tank had. So an amazing effect on people that presented on the show, losers and winners. But here's, you know, CNBC ratings soared with Shark Tank reruns. They took a network that now is reprogramming their whole network geared towards business shows. And so now there's the second Shark Tank effect that's occurred. And so, you know, I say, you know, Shark Tank is sort of, it's a business education, it's deal making, it's opportunity, it's inspirational, entrepreneurial, and it really speaks to all the things that we're interested in, is what the head of special programming at CNBC said. So having said that, and knowing that they're now programming around this, in fact, you know, the Inc. magazine has now taken it a step further, and this is one of the things that I've been focusing on now, is using the Shark Tank effect to create killer ideas and new and innovative concepts out in the marketplace. So when you think about it, the pitch game isn't just about television. It's now being used everywhere across across America. And ultimately, this is kind of my last thing that I want to share with you guys here today, is that putting on these kind of, I call them Shark Tanks, can help take a stagnant group of employees. And Gallup poll did a survey that 68.5% of the American workforce is not engaged, and 17.5% of them actually hate their job. And millennials are the least engaged. So how do you take that and work with it? Nobody wants to have a group of employees that aren't happy and excited about coming to work every day. So what I've been working with companies on, and not just companies, but colleges and from high schools to universities to nonprofit groups to the military, and I'll talk about that in a second, is that we work to create a Shark Tank culture inside companies, and this is it's sort of like an internal Shark Tank. So think about this. This is a company called Naked Wines that implemented their own internal Shark Tank for ideation. So what you do is you set up a panel of experts that are going to take pitches, and this gets promoted within the company to be able to offer a selection of people that are going to be able to present new ideas inside the company. And so after having done this a number of times, and Inc. magazine actually even puts out, this was a story inside Inc., 5 tips on how to run your own Shark Tank, right? Create an innovation team, be prepared for the follow-through, lay the ground rules, set a focus, think big picture. And so across the board, there's many companies. I went to AT&T, for example, and there's 300 senior executives, and we put them into 30 teams of 10, and we took 30 pitches, and there was a third place, second place, and first place winner, and they're ideating with new ideas and new things. And Auburn University created what they called the Tiger Cage, the Shark Tank inside Auburn University, and Microsoft and Pfizer are doing this, and they reward the employees for coming up with these new ideas because, at the end of the day, I've had some very interesting things that have come out of this. This is a story that was in the Tampa Bay Business Journal where I talked about, the company had 12 offices, and they have an annual event, and the gentleman said, that owns the company, is a private company, and he said, can you put on a Shark Tank at our annual event? And so all of they had 10 employees that had lined up with pitches, and the first thing that they said is, this is so amazing that you're allowing us to give you our constructive ideas on how to do things better, because I've worked for this company for 10 years, and I was always afraid to ever tell you that you're doing something wrong because you ruled with such an iron fist. And when it was all said and done, this gentleman actually broke down in tears and greenlit 3 projects that came out of these 10 with awards of money and funding to greenlight these projects. So it's amazing some of the things that can actually happen from these competitions. And one of the last ones that I want to share with you is pretty cool, because I met Jimmy Collins earlier today, and we were talking as a general. Chip Deal is a general over at MacDill Air Force Base, retired now, but Chip Deal was a great innovator and entrepreneurial guy, and he sits on a lot of boards. He's been on one of my boards, and so what we're doing actually is working, and I've been in a project. This was all disclosed publicly, so I'm not giving away any details internally here, but we used the military wanted to take the leaders of the country's most elite troops and come up with ideation and new ideas. So they call it SoftWorks, and it's a military idea lab, and they actually take pitches and then greenlight some of these products that go really fast into development and then take it from there. So they've already been, I started with these guys about a year ago and have been working with them now to host and handle some of these future programs that they're doing. So if the military can do it, I think, here's SoftWorks. This was published in the Tampa Bay magazine the other day. Their goal is to produce 10x the innovations at 1/10 of the time. So that's a pretty aggressive goal, and I think very fantastic situation that they're pulling together here. So basically, I know I'm limited in time, and I'm just wrapping up now, and I wanted to thank you guys for having me here today. But this is the Shark Tank effect inside companies, from the Pfizers to the AT&Ts and military and colleges. And, I just kind of close by saying, you can do it the old way. This is Rupert Murdoch. I hope we don't have any Fox people here, so sorry about that if there are. But you can do it the old way, which is a few channels broadcasting to millions, or, I call it the new culture, millions of channels utilizing the Shark Tank innovation culture. So thank you guys for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Steve.